Hello, welcome to Interesting History for YouTube. Please like, subscribe, and comment below for more interesting history. A single scientist unwittingly unleashed a cascade of calamities, claiming millions of lives, including his own, and casting a shadow over humanity's intellect, while ushering in a surge of crime and environmental devastation that still haunts us today. In 1944, fresh out of his master's program, Claire Patterson joined the ranks of the Manhattan Project, where his task was to refine uranium-235 for the nascent nuclear weapons, employing massive machines called mass spectrometers to sift the rare fissile fuel from its more abundant counterpart, uranium-238. Post-war, Patterson pursued his PhD, leveraging his expertise in mass spectrometry to delve into a new realm. Gauging the age of the Earth, radioactive minerals served as his timepieces, with uranium-238 gradually decaying into lead-206 over billions of years, offering a steady chronicle of our planet's history. Yet, Patterson's journey was riddled with anomalies. While calibrating his instruments with zircon crystals of known ages, his lead measurements deviated significantly from expectations, puzzling him and his colleague George Tilton. The culprit? Excess lead, a mystery that consumed Patterson's life and led him to explore the farthest reaches of our planet in pursuit of answers. In 1908, on the Belle Isle Bridge in Detroit, a woman encountered a car stall. Byron Carter, a prominent figure in the Detroit auto scene and founder of his own car company, came to her aid, attempting to hand crank the engine back to life. He inadvertently met his demise when the crank recoiled, fatally striking him. This tragedy spurred Henry Leland, a close friend of Carter's and founder of Cadillac, to revolutionize vehicle starting mechanisms. Determined to eradicate the perilous hand cranks, Leland enlisted Charles Kettering to engineer a self-starting automobile. By 1911, they unveiled the Cadillac Model 30, the world's first crankless car. Boasting remarkable power and speed, it swiftly gained popularity. However, it suffered from a significant drawback: deafening engine noise. The engine's excessive compression led to a disruptive phenomenon known as engine knocking. This not only caused discomfort, but also hindered engine performance and longevity. Seeking a solution, Kettering turned to Thomas Migley Jr., tasking him with developing an additive to elevate fuel octane ratings in curb knocking. Migley's experimentation led him through various compounds, from mundane to exotic. Despite discovering ethanol's efficacy in quelling knocking, its high concentration requirement made it impractical. Persistent in his quest, Migley eventually stumbled upon tellurium, an effective anti-knock agent. Yet its repulsive odor posed an insurmountable challenge, driving Migley to unconventional sleeping arrangements. While the tellurium additive promised to enhance fuel efficiency, its malodorous nature rendered it untenable for widespread use. Thus, the pursuit of a viable solution to engine knocking persisted, underscoring the intricate balance between innovation and practicality in automotive engineering. On December 3, 1921, after investing 5 years of effort into the problem, Migley believed he had stumbled upon the ideal solution: tetraethyl lead, also known as TEL in the scientific community. This additive, a single lead atom at its core, met all his criteria. It effectively silenced the engine knocking, possessed no offensive odor, was cost-effective, and readily accessible. Remarkably, just a minute quantity, 1 part in 1,000, proved sufficient for effectiveness. Excitedly, Migley predicted substantial profits, envisioning sums that equated to over $3 billion in today's currency. During a conversation with Kettering, acknowledgement of his discovery came swiftly, with the American Chemical Society bestowing upon him the esteemed Nichols Award. However, despite invitations to deliver public lectures, Migley declined, preferring to focus on patenting the process for producing tetraethyl lead alongside Kettering. Notably, they christened their breakthrough additive ethyl, a name subtly detached from its lead content, a detail omitted in their marketing efforts. Collaborating with industry giants General Motors, DuPont, and Standard Oil of New Jersey, they formed the Ethel Corporation, employing shrewd marketing strategies. Ethel's debut at the 1923 Indianapolis 500, where the top 3 finishers relied on it, propelled the demand for leaded gasoline to unprecedented heights. To meet this demand, Ethel Corporation hastily erected a new chemical plant in New Jersey. However, the project's commencement was marred by tragedy, as numerous workers succumbed to lead poisoning within months, with 5 fatalities recorded. In response to public outcry, Migley conducted a press conference, during which he deliberately exposed himself to tetrethyl lead, professing its harmlessness. Yet Migley was well aware of the dangers, having experienced lead poisoning himself while convalescing in Florida in 1923, prompting him to avoid personal contact with the product. Lead's toxicity, even in minuscule doses, stems from its ability to mimic calcium in the body, persisting in bones for extended periods and inflicting damage, particularly on the brain. Symptoms include headaches, memory loss, and peripheral neuropathy, with children being especially vulnerable. Historical awareness of lead's hazards, dating back to Benjamin Franklin's cautionary remarks in 1786, failed to deter the widespread adoption of leaded gasoline, despite admonitions from esteemed medical professionals. By the 1950s, the pervasive use of leaded gasoline by millions of motorists globally facilitated the release of lead into the atmosphere. Tragically, this contamination interfered with Claire Patterson's geological research, affecting the accuracy of zircon samples and underscoring the far-reaching consequences of leaded gasoline. In 1952, he relocated to Caltech, where he established a new laboratory from the ground up. Fueled by concerns about environmental contamination, he meticulously stripped electrical cables from the walls to eliminate lead solder, maintaining a rigorous cleaning regimen by daily scrubbing of floors and benches with ammonia. Ventilation systems ensured a constant flow of fresh air, and entry to the lab required donning a protective plastic suit, essentially pioneering the concept of the clean room. Within this pristine environment, Patterson shifted his focus to examining the oldest remnants of the solar system, meteorites. While Earth's original rocks had succumbed to geological forces, meteorites, originating from asteroids formed around the same time as Earth, provided invaluable insights. Patterson subjected 5 meteorites to 3 distinct radiometric dating techniques, revealing an astonishing consensus. They all dated back 4.55 billion years. This revelation, accurate within 0.15% of the contemporary consensus, revolutionized perceptions of Earth's age, previously underestimated by 1 billion years. Despite these groundbreaking achievements, Patterson remained committed to eradicating lead contamination. Mounting public apprehension surrounding lead exposure prompted resistance from figures like Frank Howard, president of Standard Oil, who staunchly defended leaded gasoline's industry prevalence. Meanwhile, scientists funded by the Ethel Corporation downplayed lead's risks, citing its purported natural presence in the environment. Patterson, however, remained skeptical, leveraging his expertise to investigate the true extent of environmental lead contamination. Patterson embarked on his investigation by assessing lead levels in the oceans. His hypothesis was straightforward. If lead were naturally occurring, its concentration would remain consistent regardless of depth. However, if recent lead pollution had occurred, it would be more pronounced near the ocean's surface. Sampling both the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans to depths of 4 kilometers, he discovered a starker reality. Lead concentrations near the surface were nearly 10-fold higher. This disparity confirmed recent lead pollution, but pinpointing its onset required further investigation. Turning his attention to Greenland and Antarctica, Patterson delved into ice core analyses. These cores, serving as historical archives, reveal atmospheric lead levels spanning millennia. The data unveiled a compelling narrative. Human activities, primarily ore smelting for metal production, have contributed to elevated lead levels for the past 4,500 years. The fluctuations in lead levels mirror pivotal events in human history, from the rise and fall of ancient empires to the impacts of catastrophic events like the Black Death. Notably, the 20th century witnessed a significant spike in lead levels, attributed to industrialization and the widespread use of tetrethyl lead. Addressing the implications of heightened lead exposure on human health, Patterson scrutinized lead levels in the teeth and bones of contemporary Americans. For comparison, he examined the remains of Peruvian and Egyptian mummies who lived over 1,600 years ago and thus experienced considerably lower lead exposure during their lifetimes. Further findings by Patterson revealed a staggering reality. 20th century Americans had approximately 1,000 times more lead in their bones than their ancestors. Investigations into baby teeth unveiled alarming consequences. Even lead exposure below accepted safety thresholds resulted in delayed learning, diminished IQ, and heightened behavioral issues. Despite a consensus among most experts, barring the lead industry and its representatives, regarding lead's extreme toxicity at minimal doses, the adverse effects persisted. Subsequent studies further underscored the detrimental impact of lead exposure. Those with elevated lead levels in their baby teeth were significantly more prone to academic underachievement, with a heightened risk of high school dropout rates. Consequently, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, revised guidelines, lowering the acceptable level of lead in children's blood from 60 micrograms per deciliter to 3.5. Presently, there exists no recognized safe level of lead exposure. Globally, lead exposure is implicated in nearly 2/3 of all unexplained intellectual disabilities. Estimates suggest that over half of the current U.S. population, totaling 170 million individuals, were subjected to elevated lead levels during early childhood, with those born between 1951 and 1980 disproportionately affected. Cumulatively, lead exposure resulted in a loss of over 800 million IQ points, significantly impacting global intelligence levels. Moreover, concerning correlations emerged: a consistent rise in crime rates from the 1970s to the 1990s, followed by a sudden decline, mirrored trends in preschool blood lead levels with a 20-year lag. While causality remains debated, numerous studies corroborate a causal link between lead exposure and antisocial or violent behavior. The ramifications of lead exposure extend beyond cognitive impairment and criminal behavior. Lead-induced arterial hardening, culminating in heightened cardiovascular disease risks, has been implicated in approximately 250,000 annual heart disease-related deaths in the U.S. alone. Globally, this figure could reach 100 million deaths, primarily attributable to Midley's decision to introduce lead into gasoline, despite firsthand knowledge of its toxicity, driven by profit motives. Tragically, lead exposure persists, with current estimates attributing 500 to 900,000 deaths annually to lead-related complications. A 2020 UNICEF report, alarming, identifies over 800 million children globally with blood lead levels at or above 5 micrograms per deciliter, with lead emissions from batteries and industrial processes continuing to pose significant risks. Remarkably, despite advancements, leaded gasoline remains in use, notably in piston-driven airplane engines, constituting the largest source of lead emissions into the U.S. atmosphere.